And with me today, I have Dr. Yafi Yair, who is a clinical psychologist, multidimensional channel, and author who weaves together the wheels of science and spirit to help humanity awaken to its full potential. With over 20 years of experience in psychology, Dr. Yair bridges traditional clinical expertise with the wisdom of channeled beings, including Hathor, earth spirits, fairies, and extra dimensional guides, offering transformative insights into consciousness, trauma healing, and spiritual evolution. She's also the author of Conversations with Hathor and Conversations with the Earth, and a sought after speaker at leading consciousness gatherings such as the LA Conscious Life Expo, Sedona Transcendence, and New Life Expo. So, welcome to the show. It's such an honor to have you here today, Yafi. How are you feeling?
Hi, Anu. I'm feeling great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, amazing. So, I'm really excited for today. Today's episode will consist of a short channeling session, about 5-10 minutes towards the end. So, please do stay tuned with us while we uncover the blessings of this amazing process that you're obviously teaching people worldwide and practicing today.
Yes.
So it'll be great
Yes,
to
and
find.
people,
Oh,
yeah, people definitely want to stay for it because it's great not only to talk about it, not only to do the theoretical part, but actually to experience the energy of Hathor. So I definitely recommend people stay and get to experience it for themselves.
perfect. Thank you so much. Please do tell us about yourself, about, the fact that you've got a background in clinical psychology, but also, the fact that you channel multidimensional beings. So how did all of this journey unfold for you?
Yeah, so throughout my whole life, I've been kind of hugging and going back and forth between the right brain, left brain, clinical, scientific, creative, intuitive. Really, my whole life, depending on the big period in life. And as you can imagine, doing a doctorate in clinical psychology is very left brain, very analytical, very scientific, even a little rigid, I would say. And towards the end of my studies, I had this spark of awakening in interest in anything spiritual. I started reading about things, I started experiencing things for myself. I started meditating every day and connecting to my own intuition. And then it really made me want to develop my psychic abilities and intuition even more. And because I had some natural abilities that I put aside as a child, it really opened up when I started focusing on it and developing it actively. And again, meditation is really the 101. Not only for me in my personal journey, if anyone wants to improve their intuition, improve their connection, daily meditation is really the best thing you can do for yourself. So that was the beginning of this recent spiritual journey. And now we're talking 13 years ago. So recent is relative. I also started going to the Monroe Institute regularly, which further developed my intuition and my ability to, I would say, traverse different states of consciousness and become familiar with navigating those. And then we're fast forwarding to 2020, which again, time flies. So we're already talking 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago, really. COVID shutdown happened. And I signed up for a long form channeling training. So I was already doing professional psychic readings. I was already professionally doing hypnosis for several years. So my spiritual and professional path were already intertwined, but channeling was really the last step of taking it uh, a step deeper, a step higher. And I took this long form channeling training. And that gave me a playful space to explore channeling, which was very needed for my left brain critical mind, because until then, channeling seemed too unverifiable for me, too woo woo. I kind of didn't know what to do with it, where to place it within my paradigm in my world. But that really, doing that training and dedicating myself to channeling in a more playful atmosphere rather than offering it as a professional service, but instead just playing around, just experimenting, that's just practicing really, really opened me up even more. And channeling became my world. It became my life. The training ended 6 or 7 months later. It was very, very long training. And after it ended, I never stopped. I continued channeling, mainly at that point, Hathor, which stayed with me until now. It's still my main source. So at first, as a beginner channeler, I tried different sources, anything that me and the people I was channeling with, anything that we were interested in, I called. We were interested in the Pleiadians. I called on the Pleiadians. Let's see what Pleiadians I can channel. We were interested in Arcturians. No problem. Let's call the Arcturians. Let's see what Arcturians I can channel. We're interested in whatever galactic perspective of the Earth and humanity at this time. All right, let's call some high council and see who comes through. So the beginning was really kind of a wild, fun ride of like trying on different sources, different guides, channeling all kind of interesting and wild things. And that portion of my journey is really documented in my first book, Conversations with the Earth. And that really documents, like I said, that wild ride of different sources, different perspective, earth elements. What do they have to say to humanity? So just everything you can imagine, everything that we could imagine, we called forth and we asked questions. And as my journey progressed, I honed in more and more and more on this specific essence, specific guide, Hathor. And that's my second book, my most recent book, Conversations with Hathor, which is specifically the messages from Hathor to humanity, to me personally, and to my group. And Hathor from the beginning, so I didn't know who Hathor was when she first came to me. It sounded to me like this weird foreign name. I had no idea what to expect. And then when I started channeling her, I felt this soft, loving, expansive essence. So from the first time I channeled her, it just felt so right and so good. So I really, really loved it. But I still thought it was one of the many sources. I didn't realize it was going to become such a stable long-term relationship. So yeah, so from the beginning, they presented themselves as the divine feminine. So even though the name Hathor is known to us from ancient Egypt as a specific goddess, they were more broad about their nature and identity. And you'll notice that sometimes I say they, sometimes I say she, because it was presented to me as the divine feminine. And because I speak to a voice, I often refer to them as she, to her as she, the divine feminine. However, when they speak, they usually use plural, we. So either she or they, I think, whatever works. So
Mm.
from the beginning, that's how they introduce themselves, the divine feminine, which is really, really broad. And when we asked about the names, but what about the name Hathor? And they said, yes, humans like names. So Hathor is a name, but in reality, different people have named that essence different names over the millennia, over the centuries, different eras, different cultures. And some examples that we know of. So, for example, we know of the goddesses Venus and Aphrodite.
Mm.
So they're saying, well, it's the same essence. It's the essence of the divine feminine, contextualized by a specific culture and given the appropriate name.
Yeah.
So that's really the very, very beginning of the journey. And since then, it's been a really in-depth personal journey of integrating the divine feminine into my own personality, into my own nature, into my own essence, which means a lot of things. And let's mention just a few big ones. So one huge ones for humanity at this time that has also come up for me personally in my life as a part of channeling Hathor and integrating with their essence is to move more and more and more from mental energy, thinking, we mentioned before the left brain, to more heart-based feeling, beingness over doing, and this high sense of trust in the flow of everything, trust in the self. And as a result of that trust and that understanding, that commitment of being in the flow, of letting go of control, which may sound simple, but it's really a journey on its own and has so many layers and nuances.
Thank you so much. Wow, that's amazing, amazing. So, how do you actually balance your scientific background with your spiritual and metaphysical experience?
Mhm. Yeah, so it's not as separate as people imagine because, in order to be a channel, in order to be a true spiritual explorer, consciousness explorer, you really want to be and need to be very grounded. It's extremely important to stay grounded, both physically, energetically, actually grounded, which means being in your body, and also psychologically and mentally. You don't want to lose yourself and go with whatever whims comes up. You really want to stay discerning. You want to stay practical. You want your focus to stay in this physical material world. And whatever we're exploring out there, we're really bringing in here. Now, professionally, strictly professionally, hypnosis was really a gateway for me to bring the spiritual into the clinical. So first I was just trained in clinical hypnosis. And even then, that is fascinating because you do work with the subconscious, which I always found fascinating. And from there, I became familiar with Brian Weiss and past life regression. And then I discovered Michael Newton and read all his books regarding life between lives. And later, I even discovered Dolores Cannon and did the training with her for QHHT. So her version of hypnosis and asking the higher self and the subconscious questions directly. So hypnosis was really my gateway of specifically bringing the spiritual into the clinical. And beyond that, my practice really became more and more spiritual because I began offering energy work and energy healing. It's what we often call it. And I began offering readings, psychic readings, and what else? The spiritual. Eventually, light language, light flow services, sessions. So all this spiritual practices and offerings were really pretty much separate from the clinical world, but they're not really separate because they're all a part of me, including my clinical training, my experience as a therapist, the years that I've done clinical evaluations and therapy. And I still offer certain services. I don't no longer do psychological testing. I have no interest in that whatsoever. I haven't done that in 12 years, so very, very long. But I still offer counseling and I still work with individuals also in a more mainstream way. However, whoever comes to me knows of my spiritual orientation. You know, at this point, everything is spiritual. My website, my business card, everything, most of the offers that I focus on. So even people that come to me for more mainstream services, they know that my whole the way I perceive the world, the way I live my life is totally dedicated to my spiritual journey and other people's spiritual journey, which I support them in.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much. Amazing. So, for skeptics out there who may struggle to actually reconcile psychology with channeling, what would you actually say to help bridge the gap?
Yeah. So, you know, it's a little tricky because there's nothing you can really say to convince a skeptic. And I'm speaking from both sides because I've been a skeptic my whole life. And to some degree, I'm still, I'm so like discerning and that you can still consider me in some ways a skeptic.
Mm,
But the bottom line is that you really have to experience certain things in order to make that initial leap of faith,
yeah.
because you really do have to make the leap of faith for things to open up for you. So it's okay to be a skeptic to a degree. You want to keep your discernment, you want to keep questioning,
Mhm.
and essentially you want to rely on yourself, what feels right. So let's say you're hearing a psychic say certain things, and let's say you're not really sure psychics are real. Well, listen to the message. Listen to what else you're hearing and feeling from the psychic. If the psychic, for example, seems really woo-woo and ungrounded and she's saying things you cannot relate to at all, well, it's definitely not for you at this time, or maybe ever, but it's definitely not for you. However, if you're listening to someone and that someone sounds compelling and it kind of resonates with you and you feel, oh, that's interesting, maybe there's something there for me, wonderful. Even then, it doesn't mean that you need to believe it. It doesn't mean that you need to take it on, but put it in a maybe box,
Mm,
because the idea is that even as the hardest skeptic, you want to be open-minded enough to allow yourself room for growth, room for expansion, and room for change and adaptation. Because even science is not meant to be dogmatic. Science is really about asking questions, even more about answering answers.
mhm.
Because whenever you get any answer in science, if you're thinking about it the right way, it should unfold and open for you many more questions.
Mm,
So for the skeptics out there, I say go with your gut feeling,
mhm.
explore different things if it's something that interests you,
Yeah.
and then take it from there, one step at a time. See what opens up. See how magical the world actually gets once you're open enough to allow it to come into your life.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much. That's amazing. So, can you actually describe what happens when you channel? So, how does it feel and what shifts energetically during the process?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for me personally, channeling feels very, very natural. So I know you're going to get different answers from different channelers, but there are some similarities. But of course, I will talk about myself. So physiologically, the first thing that happens is that I get very, very hot. And
Mm,
sometimes that happens even before the channeling, when the energies are present, if I'm about to channel. And sometimes just when I start channeling, my body raises in temperature. I get very hot. I even start sweating a lot. And I'm not generally a sweater. So, I can work out and barely sweat and then channel in pretty cold room and start sweating. So there's definitely a heat function to it. Also, my awareness of my physical body reduces. So I go inward. So first of all, so let's talk a little bit about my practice. What do I do? My process. So my process includes a very, very short invocation. And in that invocation, what I do is first and foremost, that's the first thing I do, is I place did you see an orb just flew above me to
yeah.
this side? Fun.
Wow.
So the first thing I do is I place myself in, yes, in a state of openness, of love, of this expanded state. So my first part of my invocation has been I play in love and light. Play to keep it playful, not to take it too seriously, not to have any self of importance, to keep it open and in love and light. Those are the only realms I'm interested in playing with, communicating with, allowing through me. So I play in love and light. I open to Hathor now. That's it. That's my invocation. So I just place myself in that state that only available to really high, beautiful realms. And then I call on the specific source I would like to channel. And once I do that, there's often a very subtle flow that I feel. So first I close my eyes. I say the invocation inside. So I close my eyes, go inwards, say my invocation, and really make myself feel it. It's not just words that I'm saying to myself. And
Mm.
as soon as I feel the openness, which is immediate for me, I feel almost that gentle flow. And it feels like, some very difficult to describe in words. You can say that it feels warm, it feels flowy, it feels just very pleasant, and sometimes it can be very subtle, especially at the beginning as a new channeler. Sometimes I wasn't even sure if I was feeling it or not, and I really had to kind of jump head first and just trust. Now it's just a very familiar feeling. So as soon as I close my eyes, I say my invocation, I feel that feeling, and then I just have to speak without thinking. And that is really the main challenge of channeling, is to keep that space of openness and allowance and not to get in the way of the transmission. So I am not knocked out, I am not asleep, I am awake and aware. I am somewhere in the background. It's the equivalent of taking the back seat of a car and allowing somebody else to drive the car. So that is what I meant by having a reduced awareness of my physical body. So I'm not completely out of it, but for example, in the past, I have found myself turned the other way, right, at the end of the channeling, and all of a sudden I open my eyes and I'm looking away from the camera and I realize I have to turn around to go back to the screen, and I have no idea how it happened. So
Wow.
there's just a small example of me not being fully aware. At
Mm.
the same time, let's say I was channeling, which actually never happened. But let's say I'm channeling and I notice something with my body. I don't know, all of a sudden I'm hitting against the table, or I don't know, I'm getting really hot and I have a jacket to remove. Me as Yafi still has enough awareness to step in and be able to do whatever needs to be done. However, as I said, it's usually not necessary. The only thing that I do while channeling sometimes is I drink water, and I do feel that my mind is present enough, for example, to remember where I put the water and reach for it. So there's definitely some kind of a flow and interaction, but generally speaking, it's more me taking the back seat and being in that state of open allowance, allowing them to say whatever needs to be said. If it's field tuning or light language, make whatever strange sounds they want to make without my critical mind getting involved. Questioning or even expressing a strong feeling or opinion could disrupt the transmission.
Mhm.
So it's really about me keeping that space of allowance. So it takes a lot of focus.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. Beautiful. So, how do these multidimensional beings actually teach about the nature of suffering and personal growth?
So a lot of people ask about that. I
Mm.
think you don't need to pay attention too much to know there's a lot happening with the world right now. There's a lot happening everywhere. People are often very involved with the news and what is happening. And as a result, people are often convinced that humanity is having a really hard time right now. And it reflects in their personal life, and they're feeling like they're having a really hard time. And many are.
Mm.
And what the guides, what Hathor and the other guides are saying about that is that indeed we live right now in times of very intense changes, and everything is accelerating. So the changes are faster than ever. The intensity of the energies are more intense than ever, and people are feeling it in different ways. Sometimes even physiologically, people are having all kind of physical symptoms that are related to these changes. And what the guides and Hathor have to say about all of this, and these are really exciting times. From their perspective, which is broader than ours, they have a zoomed out vision of what we're going through. These are very exciting times of change that we have been waiting for as humans, and many, many other beings that are interacting with humans and humanity and the planet have been waiting for. And they have been warning for a few years now that it's going to seem pretty chaotic because anything that needs modifying, any system that is broken or corrupt, any personal or collective wound that people are carrying is going to have to come up to the surface. So we are in a time where nothing can be hidden anymore. Nothing can stay in the shadows. It's very, very important, and it's happening. Whether we want it or not, it's happening. Everything has to come up to the surface so we can shed light on it, so we can face it, and that we can modify whatever we choose to modify. That awareness gives us really the opportunity to ask ourselves, what do we really want? How do we really want things to be? Both within ourselves, within our close environment, and also with the world. So we are really called more than ever to be courageous and to be able to face whatever brokenness is coming up, whatever wounds and pain and suffering is coming up, and examine it with different eyes than we had before. As I mentioned, there's no more hiding, there's no more avoiding. There is witnessing and observing and taking care of while staying as grounded as we can, as resilient and in integrity as much as we can, and with the awareness that we are going through tremendous changes that are really ushering humanity into its next stage of evolution.
Mm, beautiful. Thank you so much. Wow. And so I know that you mentioned meditation as being a source of practice for everybody to, to do daily. Are there any other exercises or practices that you'd recommend for people seeking to raise their vibration and to deepen their self-awareness?
Yeah, so of course it's endless how many things you can do. There are many ways to roam. But yes, there are certain things that you can do. So meditation, as I mentioned, but meditation means so many things. There's so many different types of meditation. So I would say that two main meditations, types of meditation, there are way more than two, but the two main ones are more passive meditations of clearing the mind, of just observing, being mindful, really being mindful and seeking clarity and what often I call the blissy state. So reaching that state where the mind is quieter and you feel yourself floating. But that's a more passive way of meditation. And I would say that's crucial for many reasons. You're exercising that muscle of focus, of being clear. You're also becoming a better listener and observer of your own self. So that's very important. And an active style of meditation would be actively visualizing, actively going on journeys, actively interacting with your higher self, with spirit, with your guides. So both of these are very important. But as a daily practice, the passive one, I would say, is very, very crucial. And then the active one is almost like candy. Because you really do get the opportunity to experience all kind of visionary experiences and some really exciting experiences. But maybe daily meditation is not necessarily about being very exciting. It's about finding peace and finding that connection. Now, in addition to these two, one of the ways it's really good to connect to your true nature is spending time in nature.
Mm,
So it's very, very important to spend some time away from your busy life, from electronics, from screens, and just be in nature. And if you have the opportunity to really be in nature, hiking or birding, or whatever you enjoy, that's wonderful. If not, look out the window, right? Work with whatever you have in your immediate environment, but spend some time. It has so many aspects. So even gazing at far versus looking at something very close has an effect on our physical eyes and on our energy. Observing animals and plants has a lot to teach us about the natural world. There's so much wisdom in nature that we can learn from and take lessons and conclusions into our own life and find ways to apply these in ways that are personal and appropriate for you in your life.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And are there any common, when you channel, are there any common themes or messages that keep coming up to you?
Yes, absolutely. So a few of them you already mentioned, like the rise of the divine feminine and what does it mean? And as I mentioned, for me personally, it also means that for humanity and other people individually. So moving away from mental energy and critical thinking to more feeling heart-centered,
Okay.
going into a higher state of trust and going with the flow. Generally speaking, choosing the path of least resistance. So instead of fighting everything that comes through, even a fighter for justice, we really want to reduce that fighter essence and become a better observer, a better holder of space. That is a part of the rise of the divine feminine, being able to hold space rather than focusing on doing. Um, Other things that come up are the rapid changes that are happening. They love talking about, well, we love asking about contact, both spiritual contact and physical contact, and open contact um, as a rite of passage for humanity. This is something that we are getting closer and closer to, and even contact with Hathor themselves, herself, themselves, is becoming more and more physical. And even they currently say that they are physical beings on earth. At
Yeah.
first, they did not say that. So, as far as I know, at first, the communication with me, and I'm sure many others, was only consciousness, only energetic.
Mm.
But their energy has been getting closer and closer and closer. And now they have arrived. That's how they announced it. We have arrived on the earth once again. Just like we walked the earth during the time of ancient Egypt. That's how we know the name Hathor and many other gods and goddesses that were told to be physical beings interacting with the pharaohs and with the people. So they're saying, yes, it's true. It's not mythology. We were actually physical beings on the earth. And guess what? We're back.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. So, shall we actually do you want to mention your books as well? I know that you already have done, but are they available on Amazon?
Yes, Conversations with the Earth and Conversation with Hathor.
Perfect.
They're both available on my website, yafichanneling.com, or on Amazon. You can buy, there's hard copy or hard copy, ebook, and audiobook. And the audiobook I narrate, so you actually have as close to hearing the channeling as possible.
Excellent.
And Conversations with the Earth, we mentioned earlier, it's kind of a wild ride of different sources that I channel. So think about the hybridization program, the zetas, the Arcturians, different earth elements, anything that you can imagine, giving them messages regarding humanity and earth at this time. And then my newest book, Conversations with Hathor, focuses on all the messages specifically from Hathor. And he talks a little bit about their nature, their interactions with humanity over the decades, more than decades, but yes, and and what they have to say to us right now on many, many different topics. And they're all questions that my group and that different individual ask of the Hathors and the answers that they have for them. So it's all very of the now. It's all been channeled in the last few years and what they have to say to us right now where we're at.
Beautiful. Thank you. So, shall we do some channeling then?
Yes. Now, would you like to hear some light language, yes or no to feel tuning, or would you like to jump to English messages and you can ask them questions? Which one do you prefer? We can do both or just verbal messages.
Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, what are you feeling would suit this podcast?
It
Hmm.
depends how much. So let's do a very, very brief light language,
Okay.
and
Hmm.
then we'll go to the verbal part and you'll get to talk to them.
Brilliant. Okay, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Haryana harakuturustania katirana. Hekriamania rustuyana. Her ania nuru humaya. Ikriti rastiana ar ayana. Homa haryanukutara. Hom hu huraiana haya. Kakria tirastiana. Hukrua haniana. Hom hom homaya. Greetings and blessings to you. It is our pleasure to be here sharing this space with you. We presented a brief intro in what humans often call nowadays light language. We would say that the intro was an introduction to our essence and a brief demonstration of how it feels to settle into your heart center, as it is the main gateway into the new world that so many of us have been discussing and sharing with you. How can we help you today?
Um, well, I'd like to understand, what message you have to share with my listeners today.
Okay, let us assess the energy and take it from there. Yes, let us address much of the information people are taking in today. There is much that you are receiving, whether it is news related, which is very clear why and how that could harm your frequency and energetic vibration, since it tends to be very negative, but also different sources that you can hear, different podcasts and different psychics and different speakers, and all are offering their own take on a variety of topics. We would say that now in your day, there is more available information than ever. This is both a blessing and also a challenge. It is a blessing because many things are available to you, accessible to you, especially if you go search for them. You may find so much that you can learn and understand, which is beautiful. This has not always been the case. In some ways, the mystery schools and different secret, sacred teachings that in the past people had to specialize their education in and spend years of traveling to distant parts of the world and learning different teachings, today is available at the tips of your fingers. At the same time, so much information is available and accessible that you need more discernment than ever to know what to focus on and what to believe and what to adopt as your own perspective and knowledge. And at times, even sources that seem like great authorities of information and knowledge are often limited by their own perspective and their own either perspective or agenda. So, our message here is for each individual to become very, very picky with what they take on, both in terms of the source of the information, but also the information itself. You must decipher where is the truth amongst all the information that is being presented. You must decide what you want to spend time in: mental time, physical time, energetic time. What would you like to choose for yourself? What would you like to see more of? Ask yourself these questions as you choose what to do with your time and how to spend your energy. This has always been important, but today more important than ever. Your energies are in a state of flux as you're all being squeezed through the eye of the needle to emerge on the other side. Because of this intensity, you are extra sensitive, and also if you allow awareness to grow and increase within you, then our message is a reminder to be compassionate and patient with yourself. As your awareness grows, you may notice more and more things that are not working, more and more patterns that may not create what you want to be creating. And therefore, you must tend to those areas of yourself with much patience and compassion. It is very easy to become critical and judgmental when you notice patterns that do not have the result that you wish for yourself. However, it is more important than ever to step into a point of strength from which you can tend to those patterns with the compassion of a loving mother or a loving and patient father. So you are called nowadays to be both the child and the parent, both the healer and the healee, and complete the cycle of creation. So you are also the co-creator, conscious co-creator of your life.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that beautiful message. We really appreciate you joining us today.
It is our pleasure.
Thank you.
Is there any other question you would like to ask us?
Oh, like, do you have any final messages for my listeners before we end this beautiful episode?
Yes. we invite you, as we mentioned, to trust your ability to handle whatever comes your way. So you must trust yourself that you can handle all the challenges that are coming. And also, if you can, trust the universe, the cosmos, the nature of reality, that you are not going into darkness. Trust that everything and everyone is moving towards the light, even when things seem really challenging, even when the challenge in front of you seems too big to handle. Trust that it is not. Trust that things will get brighter, and trust that if you just hold your head above the water and take a good care of yourself, you and everybody else will emerge on the other side, and you will get to enjoy the fruits of all your effort. Staying open and expansive can sometimes be hard work. However, the rewards are always worth it.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
It is our pleasure.
Beautiful. Thank you. Wow.
And I'm back.
She's back. Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you. Wow. Yeah,
You're welcome.
I really did love the light language. Wow, it's beautiful that.
Could you feel it?
Yeah, it's gorgeous, isn't it?
Yeah,
Wow.
often people can feel it in their bodies and they feel either moving energy or tingling or warmth and openness, but something, which
Beautiful.
is really nice that even people that usually think that they do not know how to feel energy
Yeah,
often have some experience. So that's also an invitation to the listeners. Feel free to share with us. We would love to hear what you felt, what you experienced. I think it's a part of the fun for us to be able to know what you felt, what it did for you.
exactly. Yes, please do drop us a message in the fan mail, my listeners, or you can always DM us as well. And oh, I was going to ask as well. So, are you available on all social platforms for people to connect with you?
Absolutely. YouTube is the best way to listen to free videos because I have more than 200 videos. So there are tons of transmissions,
Brilliant.
messages, clips from my Sunday group. So
Okay.
YouTube is wonderful. I also have my website.
Yeah,
I am on Facebook and Instagram, not too active, but I'm there. And the best way really is to join my Sunday group where I channel every week. That's probably the best way to keep in touch and stay in that energy.
perfect. Thank you so much. Wow, it's been such a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for sharing your
Thank
insights.
you, Anu.
Oh, and thank you to your beautiful guides as well for joining us with all the wisdom that they provided today. It was really blissful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Brilliant. So that's all we have time for today, my beautiful people. We hope you enjoyed the show and the amazing gift of channeling received today. Again, do get in touch for any questions or comments. We always look forward to hearing from you. Until the next episode, stay blessed.